It's Sunday morning. That means it's time to talk ag and conservation here at WAX 104.5. We have back in the saddle here Brian Briski from the National Resources Conservation Service. How are you doing this morning, sir?
Hey, it's going to be Sunday morning. It's going to be a heat wave.
A heat wave. You have your flip-flops all broken out and everything, your shorts after 30-some below zero or whatever it was, cold.
You know it. You know it, Scott.
Hey, yeah, we'll talk muskrat hats and everything else later on here. But, muskrat hats, they call them a cover. So you're into covers and cover crops especially. You have a big cover crops conference coming up. Tell me about all about that, Brian.
Yeah, well, you're right on keeping it covered because I do have not much hair up here and I need to keep it covered.
I wasn't going to say anything.
So when we're talking, what I want you to do before we start all yours, people, Facebook, Wisconsin Cover Crop Conference, or Google 2019 Wisconsin Cover Crop Conference.
Okay.
I want to make you aware of this. This is probably this is going to be one of the bigger events that we're going to have for this area to state.
Okay.
Especially from people in this area, be able to access this type of agenda and people.
Right.
And Stevens Point, central located. I'm just really excited. This is going to be February 20th in Stevens Point at the Holiday Inn. This is for farmers, ag professionals are going to get together. The thing that's cool about it is when it comes to cover crop, no-till, manure, there's something here from somebody that's like a total beginner to somebody that's an expert in looking at just a topic.
Okay.
So getting into kind of the topics here, our keynote actually coming in is we got a Canadian coming in, Blake Vince. He's actually a Canadian Nuffield scholar. He's from Merlin, Ontario. Actually, that's kind of, from my understanding, kind of northwest of Detroit.
Okay.
He comes from a farm. He's a farmer. He grows corn, soybeans, winter wheat on about 1,200 acres. Very relatable to Wisconsin here. They've been doing no-till since the 80s, and I know Blake's been working a lot with cover crops. People on our planning committee really liked this presentation. They had seen him before. He kind of does a good job of kind of linking the farming system to, he's also an ice fisherman too, so it's pretty interesting. So we're really excited to have him there.
I'm noting in the notes for the conference that his claim to fame is that he's never used a moldboard plow.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's going to be a good listen.
All right.
So then moving on in the conference, we're going to kind of the next session we're going to have is we're going to have some concurrent sessions, and one of them is going to be kind of breaking the tillage cycle. And I'm part of the planning committee, obviously, for this. And when we looked at these sessions, what we really tried to do is for each session, we tried to get a couple farmers to give their perspective on how they're doing these practices or these applications. And then we tried to couple it up with more of some university or research-orientated stuff to kind of back that. So, for instance, in that breaking the tillage cycle, we have a couple farmers one's from over in Green Bay, Derek Van de Hey, clay soils. And he's a fresh no-tiller. He's been about, I think, 4 or 5 years into the system, so he's going to kind of give his perspective. And we got Matt Hintz coming in. He's from the Central Sands area, and he's going to be giving his perspective. I think he might yell at me, but I think he's east of Stevens Point. Then, followed by that, we're actually going to have Jason Cavadini come in from University of Wisconsin. He is actually an agronomist at the research farm there in Marshfield or Stratford.
Okay.
And he's got some really good numbers and some interesting things where they've done some work there. And after we get done with him within that hour breakout session, we're going to have Francisco, my fellow bald Puerto Rican fellow, if you guys know him. Francisco and I joke a lot, so I got one on him here today.
Okay.
But he'll be kind of summing it up and giving a little more of the science perspective behind it. So that's just an example of how these sessions are going to be set up. So that's just one for breaking the tillage cycle. So just kind of going through quickly and highlighting, we're going to, manure and cover crops. Everybody knows we all got manure and we want to grow covers, and it's a little more complicated than it sounds. So we got a couple farmers sharing their perspectives on that. Then for the beginner, we're going to have some cover crop species selection and planting in Wisconsin. We actually have an agronomist, Steve Huffman, coming in from the eastern part of the state. Very well spoken from the private sector. We got him coupled with John Sipple. He's actually one of our NRCS district conservationists from Menominee here locally. We got kind of Kevin Shelley from the Nutrient Pest Program. He'll be talking about the Midwest Cover Crop Decision Tool. So that's going to kind of sum up the morning. Then in the afternoon, we're going to have some people talk a little bit about pest considerations with cover crops.
Right.
And that's kind of there's some things to watch out for, things that can happen. So again, we have Dan Smith coming in from the Nutrient and Pest Program, Brian Jensen. We actually have an agronomist going to speak there, Nathan Neisey. I believe he's from the northeast part of the state.
Okay.
Then for the more advanced people is the roller crimper. This is something that we probably weren't necessarily looking at as even a tool that could be used probably up until the last 5-6 years. So we actually have Erin Silva. She's actually a leading researcher from Arlington that's worked with it, and we have somebody from Ben from Land Conservation down in Vernon's going to talk about it, and we're actually bringing in a farmer, Megan Wallendahl, where she'll be talking about her use in their specific operation. So moving on.
Yep.
Another thing what we got going on here is cover crops as a forage, another section. One person I want to highlight a little bit of that would be Dross Heemstra. He's been using cover crops, I think, for around 10 years now. He's a dairy guy, probably. I think he's around maybe 250, 300 cows. So he's actually got some really good information where he's took some feed value tests, and he's going to kind of justify to the group of why he's doing what he's doing.
All right.
And kind of closing out the day, we got a couple end sessions here. One's in nitrogen management with cover crops. We have Matt Ruart and Abby from Discovery Farms, Matt from UW, and they're going to be talking a little bit about their nitrogen use efficiency and just kind of getting a little more into the nitrogen cycle, because we all know for growing crops, that's something that's a tool that we have in the toolbox. It's very important, but we got to understand what's going on here, because these cover crops can kind of change the dynamics of that a little bit. And for the final session here is we kind of have a fun session. We're going to have machinery modifications that pay. So kind of what we're doing is we're bringing in 3-4 farmers, and actually we're going to have a couple locally from Northwest Wisconsin. We got Dave Roach coming in. He's going to be talking a little bit about a modified side dresser interseeder that they built. We have a local farmer here from Augusta, Joe Smith. He's going to be talking a little bit about kind of how he does things with his no-till planter and such. We have Nick Pelletier. He's from Brown County Land Conservation, I believe. He's going to be talking about some of the modifications to no-till planters that he's seen on the east side of the state. But the sleeper we kind of got here is we actually have Jeff Lake coming in from Menominee. And they've actually taken an approach where they've spent some money on some technology with their planners and gathering data, and they've actually been able to use some of that fancy technology to really understand where they're making money on their farm and where they're not. So that'll be a really interesting session. So I could keep on talking on this forever, Scott, but moving on, the big thing is we need to remember where it is and how much and when and how much it is, right?
And how do you sign up?
Well, you need to sign up by February 6th to get the early bird discount, and this will all be
the end of this week.
And that would be, it's going to be $50 with lunch included.
Okay.
And after that, it's going to be $60. Where you sign up, like I said, I can give the email address here, but really the important thing is get on Facebook, Wisconsin Cover Crop Conference.
Right.
Or else just Google or use another internet browser and just type in 2019 Wisconsin Cover Crop Conference. So again, last year we had over 400 people there, but you or Bob didn't show up, so that's my goal. I'm going for you guys also. So
Okay, we'll make it. All right, that sounds like a good challenge.
yeah,
Boy, what a conference you guys have put together, and what this is important stuff, and it says on the conference material, save the date. And an idea here is to save some money, be profitable along the way.
yeah. This is cutting edge stuff,
Right.
I mean,
right.
where we're moving, where agriculture is moving from a sustainability standpoint and from an economic standpoint.
Yep.
And and hopefully, like I said, there's going to be some nuggets here for anybody. Last year we had over 400 people, and the reviews were fabulous. So
And we can expect more this year. Thanks a lot, Brian. Brian Briski with the NRCS talking about the Wisconsin Cover Crop Conference coming up February 20th at Stevens Point at the Holiday Inn. Thank you, sir, and break out those flip-flops.
yep.
All right, thanks, Brian. Scott Schultz at Wax 104.5.